Imagine this. It's 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius hasn't blown yet. You're walking the narrow, stinking streets of Pompeii at 6 a.m. The bakeries are already firing up. Dogs are fighting over garbage. And from a second-floor balcony, a woman in a bright yellow stola leans out and yells down to a passing sailors in Greek, Latin, and broken Oscan. Hey boys. Sunrise special 2 asses for a quick one. 3, if you want me to keep the wig on. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how a completely average day began for a Roman prostitute named Myrtis' real name. Probably Martis. But the Greeks in town couldn't pronounce the R. And for the next 2.5 hours, I'm going to let you follow her, and dozens like her, through every dirty, hilarious, heartbreaking, and jaw-dropping detail of what sex workers in the Roman Empire actually did from dawn until the moment they closed their eyes at night. No moralizing, no Victorian blushing, just the raw, sourced archaeological truth that your high school textbook was too scared to print. Buckle up. You're about to spend a full shift in the oldest profession the ancient world had to offer. The first surprise. Myrtis didn't wake up in a brothel like you're picturing. The famous purpose-built lupanar in Pompeii with the stone beds and the pornographic frescoes. That place was the Motel 6 of the industry, cheap, loud, and mostly for drunk legionaries who couldn't afford better. Myrtis, at 26, had already worked her way up. She rented 2 rooms above a popina, think Roman fast food joint on the Via dell'Abbondanza. 1 room for living, 1 room for business, separated by a cheap wool curtain that never quite blocked the smell of garam-fried dormice from downstairs. She rolled off her straw mattress at the first roar of the street carts. Romans started work stupidly early, and the very first thing she did was piss in a bucket. That bucket wasn't just for hygiene. Mixed with stale wine, it became her morning mouthwash. Ammonia kills bacteria, and Romans knew it centuries before Lister. Then she scraped her tongue with a silver tongue scraper shaped like a tiny gladiator. Sword gift from a regular who was a lanista and liked roll-play. Next stop, the mirror, not glass-polished bronze. She spent 20 minutes painting her face exactly the way Ovid mocks in the Ars Amatoria. White lead foundation, toxic as hell, but it made your skin look like marble. Red ochre on the cheeks, charcoal for eyeliner, and crushed antimony to make her eyes glitter. Hair, a full wig of blonde German captive hair, because black Italian hair was boring. She pinned it with bone hairpins carved into erect phalluses, good luck charms against the evil eye. And free advertising by 7 a.m. She was downstairs eating breakfast with the popina. Owner's wife, bread soaked in cheap wine. A couple of olives and yesterday's leftover sausage. While she ate, the first customer of the day walked in, a baker from across the street who paid in still warm loaves instead of cash. Quick transaction against the back wall, over in 4 minutes. Myrtis wiped herself with a sponge on a stick dipped in vinegar, the Roman toilet paper. Basically, handed the sponge to the next girl waiting and went back to eating her bread. Efficiency was everything. Here's where most people get it wrong. Only about 30 to 40% of her income came from straight intercourse. The rest? A menu longer than a cheesecake factory. Want her to dance naked while playing the tibia double flute? Extra. Recite obscene poetry while you jerk off into a silver cup. Double. Pretend to be the goddess Venus surprising you in a sacred grove. That was a Cistercius-level fantasy. One of her regulars, a rich equestrian with a villa on the hill, paid her 50 sesterti a month just to send him used menstrual rags. He kept them in a box under his bed. Weird? Sure, but that one fetish paid her rent. At mid-morning, she walked to the Stabian baths, not to bathe, that cost money, but to network. The baths were the Roman Tinder. She sat in the apoditerium changing room in a see-through cone silk dress that cost more than most families made in a year, chatting up merchants, flirting with teenage sons of senators, and handing out wooden tokens carved with her name and room number. Archaeologists found hundreds of these tokens all over Pompeii ancient business cards with a hole, so you could tie them to your belt. Lunch was whatever customers bought her. A Syrian trader once fed her flamingo tongues and dormice, rolled in honey and poppy seeds while he cried about his wife back in Antioch. Another time, a legionary fresh off the boat from Britain paid her in oysters and asked, in horrible Latin, if she could do the thing with the eel. She could. It cost extra. And yes, Marshall mentions that trick too. Afternoons were for festivals. If it was a market day Nundine, she worked the crowds outside the amphitheater, painted her prices on the soles of her feet so she could flash them by lifting her dress. If Venus Erycina had a festival, she and 20 other girls paraded through town naked except for flower crowns, collecting donations in a giant phallus-shaped bowl. The temple got half, the girls split the rest. Religion and prostitution tightly linked. The Temple of Isis in Pompeii even had its own staff of sacred prostitutes whose job description literally included comforting widows. The real money, though, came after dark. When the oil lamps came on, Pompeii turned into Las Vegas. Myrtis changed into a synthesis dinner dress that was basically lingerie and headed to whatever rich guy had booked her for the night. One regular, a wine merchant named Lucius Calpurnius, threw parties where the entertainment was 12 Olympians. 12 prostitutes dressed as gods and goddesses, oiled up, wrestling in a shallow pool of watered wine, while the guests bet on who would submit first. Myrtis always played Artemis Virgin Goddess. Ironic, as Helen always won because she knew how to fake a submission while actually pinning the Jupiter guy with her thighs. Winner got to keep the golden laurel wreath and all the tips. Stuffed in her mouth during the fight, but not every night was a party. Some nights she worked the Salathos tiny one-woman brothel rooms you see in the ruins. 5 feet by 6, stone bed, curtain for a door. 10 minutes per customer, 30 to 40 men a night. She kept count by moving pebbles from one jar to another. At the end of the month, she cashed the pebbles with the pimp 4 coins. The walls are still covered in graffiti. Futui hic ego puellum bellum. I fucked a pretty girl here, and below it, in a different hand, liar, she's cross-eyed. They left 5-star reviews in Latin.health. Shockingly managed. Romans had condoms linen sheaths tied with ribbon, or sheep bladders for the rich. They had silpherm so effective at contraception, it was harvested to extinction and pennyroyal. And Queen Anne's lace seeds. Myrtis chewed the seeds every morning with her breakfast. Abortions. Available, dangerous, but available juniper oil, squirting cucumber. And a doctor on the Vicolo di Mercurio who charged 1 denarius and gave you opium afterward. STDs were treated with mercury baths and guaiacum, imported from the New World centuries early via Phoenician traders. Yes, really. And the law. Prostitution was 100% legal and taxed. Every working girl had to register with the ideals, pay the licentious stupri tax 1 trix worth per day, and wear the male toga in public so everyone knew what she did. If she made enough money, she could buy her way out of the infamia status and become respectable again. A few even became priestesses or married into the middle class. One former meretrix in Rome left a will freeing 3,000 slaves. Beat that. Jeff Bezos. By 2 or 3 a.m., Myrtis stumbled home. Muscles aching, throat raw from shouting propositions in 3 languages. She paid the night watchman to walk her so she wouldn't get robbed. Washed the night off in a basin of cold water. And rubbed her skin with olive oil and strigil to scrape away the sweat, semen, and cheap perfume. Then she counted her coins, kissed the little clay Priapus statue over her door for luck, and finally slept. That was 1 day. Multiply by 10,000 women across the empire, from the docks of Ostia to the suburbs of Londinium. And you start to understand the machine that kept Roman society oiled and running. They weren't victims or saints. They were entrepreneurs, survivors, comedians, and sometimes the only therapists a soldier would ever have. So next time, you walk through the ruins of Pompeii and see those little stone beds or the phallus, carved into the street, pointing to a brothel. Don't giggle like a middle schooler. Tip your hat. Because Myrtis and her sisters didn't just sell sex, they sold laughter, escape, status, and sometimes the only gentle touch a man would feel in years. And they did it from sunrise to sunrise, every single day for centuries. The sun is barely up again. But Myrtis is already moving. Yesterday was Pompeii. Today we're leaving the postcard town behind and riding north with her on the back of a mule cart. Because she's been hired for a 3-week contract in the big city, Rome, Suburra district, late summer. 79 AD, exactly 2 months before Vesuvius erases her hometown forever. She doesn't know that yet. Nobody does. She's traveling with 7 other girls, 2 armed escorts, and a chain chest containing 3,200 sesterti in advance payment from a lanista who's putting on the most obscene ludi anyone has ever planned for the emperor's birthday. The chest is locked with a combination wax tablets. Only the lanista's secretary in Rome has the key. If the cart is robbed, every girl loses a year's earnings. They sleep in shifts, one hand on a knife. The Via Appia is a river of dust, priests, merchants, and funeral processions. Every milestone has a prostitute working it. Some are literal slaves chained to the stone with a price painted on their chest. Others are free, but desperate, offering to asses or a crust of bread. Myrtis keeps her eyes forward. She's seen worse. When a tax collector tries to charge them transit toll for meretrices, their escort flashes a bronze diploma signed by the Aedile of Pompeii, and the man backs off fast. Connections matter. They reach Rome at dusk on the 5th day. The smell hits first. 1.2 million people. No sewers in the poor districts and a heat wave. The Suburra is a 6-story warren of tenements, bars, and brothels stacked like shipping containers is already roaring. Their destination, the Lupanar Magnum Macilius, the biggest brothel in the city, 40 rooms, 3 floors. Owned by a freedman who used to be a gladiator and now walks with a solid gold phallus cane. Inside, the place is a machine. Ground floor, tavern, and reception. A fresco of Priapus weighing his dick against a bag of gold greets you at the door the bag is losing. The madam, an ex-dancer from Gades named Telethusa, inspects the new girls like livestock. Myrtis gets priced at 8 asses standard, 24 the night. 50 if the customer wants the full Pompeian experience, whatever that means. She'll find out, closing parenthesis, 2nd floor, the cells. Same size as Pompeii, but with actual mattresses and a pulley system that lowers a leather sling from the ceiling for customers who like to be suspended. Graffiti here is next level. Secundus hic futuit Rufum quadraginta, Vesuvius. Secundus fucked Rufa 40 times here and below it. In Rufa's handwriting, he lies 27. And he cried twice. 3rd floor, the luxury suites. Marble, silk curtains. And a direct pipe from the Aqua Marcia so the girls can bathe between clients without leaving the building. This is where Myrtis will spend most of her time. Because the Lanista's contract is for the elite preludes to the games. Her first night in Rome is a blur of bodies. A senator wants her to dress as his dead wife while he sobs into her neck. A Syrian actress pays her to fist her in front of a dinner party of 12 philosophers who debate Stoicism versus Epicureanism the entire time. A teenage aristocrat, not even shaved yet, brings his pedagogue to watch and take notes for educational purposes. She earns 400 sesterti before midnight and hasn't even started the real job yet. Day 2. Rehearsal for the Ludi. The Lanista, Acilius Scaurus, has rented an entire villa outside the Esquiline Hill. 80 prostitutes, 20 actors, a full orchestra, and 300 gallons of rosewater. The theme is the wedding of Mars and Nario. Except Nario is being played by 8 women at once, and Mars has a detachable ivory phallus that shoots warm milk at the climax. Myrtis is cast as one of the Nario fragments. Her specific role is to emerge from a giant mechanical vulva carried by 4 Nubian slaves while reciting Catullus 16 in Greek. She has 3 days to memorize it, while the others practice choreography. She's pulled aside by Scaurus himself. He wants a private show tonight. He's impotent unless the girl bleeds. Myrtis negotiates 100 sestertii and a vial of chicken blood hidden in a sponge. When she squeezes it at the right moment, Scaurus weeps with relief and doubles the fee. She pockets the coins in a leather pouch sewn inside her thigh. Week 2. The actual games, the Flavian Amphitheater, isn't finished yet. They're using the Circus Maximus. The morning is standard Venetians lions eating criminals, but the afternoon is Scaurus's spectacle. The crowd, 80,000 screaming Romans. Myrtis and the other 7 Narios are oiled until they shine like statues. When the mechanical vulva opens and they tumble out naked onto rose petals, the roar is deafening. The milk-shooting phallus works perfectly. Vespasian himself, watching from the Pulvinar, laughs so hard he chokes on a fig. That night, Rome parties like the world is ending. Myrtis is booked solid from sunset to sunrise. A tribune who wants to be whipped with his own military belt. A Vestal virgin's lover who needs an alibi. A Greek poet who pays her to listen to his terrible hendocasyllables while he masturbates with both hands. At one point, she's carried through the streets on a litter by 4 drunken equities, who sang the entire score of the afternoon show off-key. She makes 3,800 sestertii in 9 days. Enough to buy citizenship for her little brother back in Pompeii. Enough to retire if she wants. She doesn't. She likes the game. But Rome is also where she sees the machine's underbelly down in the slave pens beneath the Lupanar. New arrivals from the Danube frontier girls, as young as 9, are branded on the forehead with the letter F for fugitivus if they try to run. One night, a Thracian girl hangs herself with her own hair. Telethusa cuts her down, curses the lost investment, and has the body dumped in the Cloaca Maxima before dawn. Myrtis drinks 3 cups of unmixed wine and doesn't sleep. On the last day of the contract, Scaurus throws a private party for the emperor's son, Titus. Only 20 guests, all masked. The entertainment is lotus eaters. The girls lie on couches while the men feed them opium-laced honey and do them however they want. Myrtis refuses the opium. She's seen what it does and spends 6 hours pretending to be unconscious while powerful men take turns. When it's over, Titus himself slips a gold aureus into her mouth and whispers, "You have honest eyes." That's rare. She almost laughs. Honest, right? She leaves Rome. 3 weeks later, with 8,400 sestertii sewn into her clothing. A scar on her left breast from a drunk centurion's ring. And the memory of a dead Thracian girl she couldn't save. The journey south is quiet. Vesuvius is smoking a little more than usual, but nobody thinks much of it. Earthquakes are normal in Campania. Myrtis gets off the cart at the Stabian Gate of Pompeii on the 22nd of August. 79 AD, she has exactly 48 hours left to live. But that's tomorrow's story. For now, she walks back into her old room above the Papina, kisses her Priapus statue, and counts her coins under the oil lamp. She's 26, rich by her standards, and still breathing in the distance. The mountain rumbles like a satisfied customer. She smiles, blows out the lamp out, and goes to sleep. August 23rd, 79 AD, POMPEII.1. Day before everything ends, Myrtis wakes up richer than she has ever been in her life. 8,400 sestertii hidden in 3 different places. A hollowed-out loaf of bread. A false bottom in her makeup box and sewn inside the lining of her best stola. She feels like a goddess. She decides today is a holiday. No customers. No haggling. Just one perfect, selfish pleasure. First thing she does is walk straight to the Forum baths. The fancy ones, the ones that charge an entire quadrant just to get in. She pays for the full works: hot bath, cold bath, oil, strigial, massage. Even the guy who plucks your leg hair with tweezers one by one. While a Spanish slave girl scrapes yesterday's Rome off her back, Myrtis gossips. Everyone is talking about the earthquakes. The Temple of Isis lost a column. Water in the fountains turned muddy for an hour. Just the usual, the bath attendant shrugs. Vesuvius belches, the ground dances, we keep living. At noon, she meets her best friend, a tattooed Syrian dancer named Thalassa. And together they blow an obscene amount of money at the Macellum. Oysters from Baie dormice fattened on figs. A whole roasted peacock with its tail feathers reattached so it looks alive. 2 amphorae of 40-year-old Falernian that cost more than most legionaries make in a year. They eat it all on the roof terrace of a capona, legs dangling over the street. Getting gloriously drunk while street kids beg for scraps below. Thalassa asks the question Myrtis has been avoiding. So what now? You could buy a little farm in Capua, marry some boring widower, never spread your legs for coin again. Myrtis laughs so hard wine comes out her nose. And do what? Milk goats and die of boredom at 30. No, I'm going to buy a share in a brothel in Puteoli. Be the madam. Make other girls rich instead of some pimp. They toast to that afternoon is for shopping. She buys her little brother, still a slave in a baker's shop, his freedom papers. Costs 2,000 sestertii, but she signs them with a flourish and tells the lawyer to deliver them tomorrow morning. Then she blows another 500 on a gold anklet with tiny dangling phalluses that tinkle when she walks. She puts it on right there in the shop and parades down the street like a triumphing general. Evening falls soft and golden. She treats herself to the theater. Some trashy mime troupe is doing a parody of the Emperor's love life. The crowd roars when the actor playing Domitian gets pegged by a woman dressed as the goddess Minerva. Myrtis laughs until her ribs hurt. After the show, she runs into an old regular, sweet, stammering Greek doctor named Philotas, who's always been half in love with her. He begs her to come home with him. No charge, just dinner and talk. For once, she says yes. They eat figs and cheese on his tiny balcony overlooking the Sarno River. He tries to kiss her. She lets him. It's gentle, slow, nothing like work. For a few hours, she almost feels like a normal woman. They fall asleep tangled in each other's arms. At around 2 in the morning, the bed starts shaking. Hard plaster rains from the ceiling. Philotas jumps up, screaming that it's the end of the world. Myrtis, hungover and cranky, tells him to shut up. It's just another quake. Go back to sleep. The shaking stops after a minute. They laugh nervously, make love again, and drift off. August 24th, 79 AD to 7:30 a.m., she kisses Philotas goodbye. Promises to meet him for dinner tonight, and walks home through streets already busy with people sweeping up broken roof tiles. The sky is strangely gray, like a storm that can't decide whether to break. Vesuvius is wearing a flat, lenticular cloud cap. Pretty, she thinks. She gets back to her room above the Popina. The owner's wife is in hysterics because every single jar of garum in the cellar exploded during the night. The whole place stinks like a fish graveyard. Myrtis laughs, helps clean up, then goes upstairs to count her money one last time and decide what to pack for Puteoli. 1 o'clock. P.M. The mountain roars. Not an earthquake this time. A sound like every bronze shield in the world being smashed at once. Myrtis runs to the balcony. Half of Vesuvius is simply gone. A black pine tree-shaped cloud is rising miles into the sky, lit from inside by red lightning. Ash starts falling, light at first, like dirty snow. People in the street freeze, mouths open. Then someone screams, "The giants are free." And panic explodes. Myrtis doesn't scream. She's seen enough of the world to know gods don't send warnings this big for nothing. She stuffs every coin she owns into a leather sack, throws on her sturdiest sandals, grabs the little Priapus statue off the door for luck, and runs. The rest you already know. She makes it as far as the Stabian Gate with thousands of others. Pumice stones the size of eggs are falling now, cracking skulls, setting roofs on fire. The sky turns pitch black at midday. People trample each other in the dark. Myrtis loses a sandal, rips her stola, keeps moving south toward the sea, toward the boats, toward life. She almost makes it. Archaeologists find her 1,900 years later, curled in a doorway just inside the gate. The leather sack still clutched in her arms. Gold anklet twinkling on her skeleton, Priapus figurine in her fist. The cast of her body shows her hood pulled up. One hand raised, as if shielding her eyes from the final surge that buried her alive. 8,400. Sestertii scattered around her like useless stars. Her brother's freedom papers. Delivered the next morning to a city that no longer existed, and that, finally, is the end of Myrtis's shift. Not with a whimper. Not with shame, but with her money in her hand. Running for tomorrow until tomorrow ran out. Thank you for walking the streets with her tot. See you in whatever's next. The ash is still warm when the first looter crawls out of the darkness. His name is Gaius Custus Longinus. 29 years old, former legionary of Legio to Adiatrix. Discharged 2 years ago with a limp and a purse full of nothing. He's been living in a shack outside Nuceria, drinking away his savings when the mountain exploded. He watched the cloud from 10 miles away and knew exactly what it meant. Pompeii and Herculaneum just became the biggest unclaimed treasure vault in history. He waits 4 days. Long enough for the pyroclastic surges to cool. Short enough that the Imperial rescue teams haven't arrived yet. Then he walks in at dawn with a wet cloth over his mouth, a pickaxe, and a sack. The city is a black and gray moonscape. Roofs have pancaked, streets are waist-deep in pumice, and the silence is so complete he can hear his own heartbeat. Bodies everywhere, some still standing like statues, mouths open in that last scream. He steps over a woman frozen mid-run, her gold bracelets shining through the ash. He almost takes them, then decides bigger prizes wait. He heads straight for the Via della Bandenza. He remembers the Papina, remembers the yellow stola girl who used to shout at sailors from the balcony. If anyone had cash stashed, it was her. He finds the building half collapsed. The counter downstairs is buried under a fallen roof beam, but the staircase is intact. He climbs. The upstairs room is almost perfectly preserved under a blanket of ash. A straw mattress, a shattered mirror, a small wooden chest flipped on its side. And there, half buried in the corner, the leather sack. He opens it and actually laughs out loud. 8,400 sestertii in mixed silver and aurei. More money than he made in 12 years under the standards. Enough to buy a villa, a dozen slaves, a lifetime of whores and wine. Enough to forget the German spear that still aches in his knee when it rains. He's stuffing the coins into his own bag. When he notices the skeleton, she's curled on her side. Hood still up, one arm stretched toward the door as if she changed her mind at the last second. The gold anklet glints. In her fist, the little clay Priapus, its erect penis snapped off by the weight of the ash. Longinus kneels. For some reason he can't explain, he pries the broken statue out of her fingers and slips it into his pocket. Then he takes the anklet too. Not for the gold, just because it feels right. He's about to leave when he sees the second thing. Under the mattress, missed by the falling debris, is a wax tablet, still sealed. He flips it open. It's a will, written in shaky but legible handwriting, dated the day before the eruption. To my brother, Caius Julius Philargyrus, slave of the bakery of Modestus on the Vicilla degli Skeletri. I leave my entire estate upon my death, including all coin, jewelry, and the figurine of Priapus that has watched over me since I was 15. Let no man say Martis of Pompeii died poor or forgotten. Signed, Martis, also known as Myrtis Meretrix, free woman of the tribe Falerna. In the presence of 7 witnesses, this 23rd day of August, in the second year of Titus Imperator, Longinus sits back on his heels. He knows the bakery. It's still standing on the edge of town. And he knows the imperial bureaucrats are already on their way to claim abandoned property for the fiscus. If this tablet surfaces, the money becomes state property. If it never existed, he looks at the skeleton again. Fuck it, he mutters. He takes the tablet, the money, the anklet, and the broken Priapus, and walks out. 3 weeks later, in Neapolis, a quiet man in a clean tunic presents himself at the office of the Duumviri and registers the manumission of one Caius Julius Philargyrus, age 19, baker's slave, for the sum of exactly 2,000 sestertii. The rest of the inheritance, he explains, was used to purchase a small laundry business in Misenum and to fund a modest tomb on the road to Stabia. The tomb is simple: a marble slab with a carved relief of a woman in a stola pouring a libation, her face calm, almost smiling. Below it, the inscription, Martis Meretrix Pompeanavic Sedanis, Expefessa, Sibi et Fratri Sualiberto. She made it for herself and for her freed brother. No one ever connects the quiet ex-legionary who paid for it with the looter who walked out of the ash with a sack of coins. Longinus keeps the broken Priapus on a shelf above his bed for the rest of his life. When he dies 30 years later, his own freedmen bury him with it, and somewhere under the modern streets of Pompeii. Myrtis's gold still circulates, her name still spoken whenever someone reads that tombstone and wonders who the hell she was. The shift never really ends, it just changes hands. The year is now 126 AD, 47 years after the ash settled the tomb of Martis. The Meretrix still stands on the road between Pompeii and Stabia, but the grass has grown tall around it and the marble is already weathering. Most travelers hurry past. The Bay of Naples has new playgrounds now. Baie Putelli, the brand new villa quarter at Herculaneum, is rebuilding on top of its own corpse. Pompeii itself is a ghost quarry, picked clean by emperors and souvenir hunters alike. But one person stops. She is 22, barefoot, sunburned, and dragging a limp. A Thracian brand on her left shoulder still raw. The Greek letters lambda epsilon, sigma, beta, iota. For lesbian acts, the punishment for a slave girl caught loving another slave girl. She was on a chain gang headed for the mines in Sardinia when the guards got drunk at an inn near Capua. She slipped her collar and ran south, following rumors of a tomb that grants wishes to women like her. Her name is Rhodope. She has exactly 3 things in the world: the rags on her back, a stolen knife, and a story she heard from an old laundry woman in Misenum, that a rich whore from Pompeii was buried with her fortune and that any woman who pours wine on her stone at midnight will receive protection from men forever. Rhodope has no wine. She has piss and desperation. She kneels anyway. The moon is full. Crickets scream in the oleanders. She presses her forehead to the warm marble and whispers in broken Greek. Martis, who bought her brother free. Take me too. I don't want gold. I want never to open my legs for a master again. She starts to cry. Ugly, snotty sobs because she knows gods don't listen to runaway slaves. Then the ground shifts. Not an earthquake, something smaller. A soft clink under the grass. Rhodope scrubs, tears away, and digs with her hands. 6 inches down her fingers hit metal. A small lead casket, no bigger than a loaf, sealed with wax that still carries the faint impression of a phallus. Inside, 20 gold aurei, fresh as the day they were minted under Vespasian, and a folded scrap of papyrus. The papyrus is in the same handwriting as the tablet Longinus once found. To the next girl who needs it more than I. Do, spend it wisely, spend it loudly, and if you can. Free one more, M. Rhodope stares until the moon moves. Then she laughs, a cracked, wild sound that scares even the crickets silent. She does exactly what the note says. First, she buys passage on a grain ship, leaving Puteoli at dawn, dressed as a boy. Then, over the next 10 years that follow, she becomes the most notorious madam on the entire western coast. Her brothel in Ostia, the Casa Rhodopis, is famous for one unbreakable rule. Every girl who works there is paid in full, keeps half her earnings, and can buy her freedom for a fixed price written on the wall the day she arrives. No beatings, no debt traps, no house fees that never end. By 140 AD, she owns 3 more houses, a fleet of small boats that smuggle runaway slaves to Spain, and a private bath complex where the mosaics all show women cutting the throats of men who look suspiciously like certain senators. She never marries. She never takes a lover who can give her orders. Every August 24th, she closes every brothel at noon, pours the most expensive Falernian on the floor, and tells the new girls the story of a woman named Martis, who died running with her money in her fist so they could stand here free. In 159 AD, at age 55, Rhodope dies of a fever in her own bed, surrounded by 60 freedwomen who loved her. Her will is simple. Bury me facing the sea. Put 20 gold aurei in this note in a lead box under the garden. Let the next girl find it when she needs it. Most, they do. The box is found again in 312 AD by a Christian girl fleeing her father's plan to marry her to a 60-year-old widower with 12 children. Then again in 472. A D by a Gothic camp follower who uses the coins to ransom her entire village. Then again in 791. A D by a Moorish dancing girl sold to a Frankish count. Then again in 1160. A D by a Jewish courtesan escaping the Almohad purges in Cordoba. Then again in 1543 AD by an Aztec princess smuggled out of Tenochtitlan in a wine barrel. Then again in 1794 by a Haitian slave woman who buys guns for the revolution. Then again in 1916 by a Belgian refugee walking south from the German lines. Then again in 1944 by a Jewish girl crawling out of a cattle car at Auschwitz because the track was bombed and the guards ran. The note is always the same. The handwriting impossibly unchanged. To the next girl who needs it more than I. Do, spend it wisely, spend it loudly, and if you can. Free one more. M. The shift still hasn't ended. It just keeps getting passed forward. One desperate hand to the next across 2,000 years of ash, blood, and moonlight, and somewhere under the modern tourist paths of Pompeii. Martis is still smiling because she finally won. August 24th, 2025, Pompeii, Scuvy. 5:47 a.m., 37 minutes before the park officially opens. The sky over the Bay of Naples is the exact color. It was in 79 AD, right before the surge. A soft, lying pink. The air smells of pine, hot dust, and the ghost of garum that never quite leaves the stones. Her name this time is Valentina Rossi. 24, born in the projects of Scampia. raised by a grandmother who cleaned hotels in Sorrento. She has a master's in archaeology from Napoli Federico to paid for with OnlyFans, sugar daddy dinners, and one very illegal dig season in Turkey that still gives her nightmares. Officially, she's here as a junior site photographer. Unofficially, she's broke again, 3 months behind on rent. And the department chairman has started sending her private cataloging requests at 2 a.m. She slipped. The night guard, €200 and a blowjob behind the Porta Marina kiosk, so he'd let her in before the gates open. She's not here for photos. She's here because of a story. Every female archaeologist who has ever worked Pompeii for more than one season knows the story. Whispered in the storage magazzini after too much limoncello, the tomb that moves. The lead box that appears exactly when some woman is one bad day away from disappearing herself. They call it La Catena del Patain, the whore's chain. Most laugh it off. Valentina laughed too. Until last month, when her Nona died and left her nothing but debts and a 150-year-old postcard of that exact tomb outside Stabia, with one line on the back in fading ink. Quando hai finito di correre. Fermati qui. When you're done running, stop here. So here she is. Running, she walks the Via dell'Abbondanza alone. Boots crunching on the basalt stones that once knew Myrtis's bare feet. The site is creepy empty. No tourists, no guides, just the low hum of Vesuvius in the distance reminding everyone who's boss. She passes the Lupana, the thermopolium of Vetusius Placidus. The house of the faun, every doorway a mouth that remembers closing, parenthesis, at the Stabian gate. She stops. There's fresh dirt in the corner of the little shrine niche where the street guardian phallus used to be. Someone has been digging. Recently, Valentina drops to her knees and claws with her hands like Rhodope did 2,000 years earlier. 6 inches down, the same lead casket, smaller now, battered, soldered, shut a dozen times, and reopened just as many. The wax seal is modern red candle wax from the €1 store. But the impression is the same tiny erect phallus. She breaks it open with the butt of her flashlight. Inside, 20 gold aurei, genuine. ESD Sentry, perfect, and a single Polaroid, not papyrus. A Polaroid taken maybe 20 years ago. A woman in 1990s clothes, big hair, red lipstick, holding the same casket, grinning, flipping off the camera. On the white border, ballpoint pen, still works. Bitch. Pay it forward. M. And all the sisters. Valentina laughs so hard, she cries. Then she just cries. She sits there until the first tourist bus rumbles in the ground at 8:30. By then, the coins are sewn inside her bra. The Polaroid is in her pocket. And she has already decided. 6 months later, the department chairman is fired after 30 former students, all women, suddenly, miraculously, find the courage to come forward with screenshots, recordings, and one very clear video from 2019. A year after that, a new nonprofit appears in Napoli La Catena. It buys one-way train tickets for women escaping abusive partners, pays first-hand last on tiny apartments, funds abortions, funds law school, funds therapy, funds whatever the hell you need to stop running. It is funded by anonymous donations that always arrive in cash, always in envelopes containing exactly 20 old Roman gold coins and a new Polaroid of the last woman helped. Flipping off the camera. Alive, the envelopes are never traced. The coins are never sold. They are always reburied somewhere new. Somewhere only the next woman will know to look, with a fresh Polaroid added to the chain, and every August 24th. No matter where in the world they are, the women of La Catena close whatever they're doing at noon. Pour the most expensive drink they can afford onto the ground. And say the ones who know the whole story whisper the same toast to Martis, to Myrtis, to RHODOPE.2. Every sister who turned her body into a weapon, her money into a rope. and threw it backward over the wall so the next girl could climb. The shift still hasn't ended, it's just gone global, and somewhere under the hot Campanian sun. 20 new aurei are already waiting under fresh dirt for the next pair of desperate, furious, laughing hands. See you when you need it. August 24th, 2079. 100 years exactly since Valentina Rossi knelt in the dust. The Bay of Naples is different now. Pompeii, Scavi, is roofed with adaptive solar glass that keeps the ruins at a perfect 18 degrees Celsius year-round. Vesuvius is a nature reserve with a cable car to the crater rim and a 5-star restaurant at the top. The Via dell'Abbondanza has augmented reality ghosts you can tip in crypto. Tourists pay extra to watch Myrtis shout her sunrise special in 8K. Holograms that smell faintly of garum and cheap. Perfume, but the chain is still alive. Her name this time is Amina Al-Khatib, 29, born in a refugee camp outside Aleppo. Raised in Marseille, educated on scholarships she earned by hacking university servers for other poor kids. She is the first woman to lead the Lunar Excavation Consortium's Artemis Base archaeology team. Officially, she's on Earth leave. Family emergency. Unofficially, she has 48 hours before the biometric locks on her corporate neural implant. Reactivate and turn her into a compliant employee again forever. She came home for one reason. The trail has gone. Digital for decades. But the rule never changed when you are one decision away from disappearing. The chain finds you. Last week, an anonymous message appeared in her optic feed. Untraceable, written in 1st century Latin. Quando cursum finiris. Ad signum Parthenopes, ready. When you finish running, return to the Bay of Naples. So here she is, 3:11 a.m., standing alone inside the glass-roofed Lupanar. Wearing a stolen maintenance exosuit that makes her invisible to the patrol drones. The AR ghosts are turned off for the night. The stone beds are just stone again. The air smells like hot circuits and old ash. She walks the route by memory, even though she has never been here in meat space before. Every woman in the chain learns the path the way sailors once learned. Stars, past the house of the Veti, left at the phallus carved. Into the wall, down the narrow alley that used to stink of piss and cumin, to the exact spot where Myrtis's Pepina collapsed in 79 AD. There is a maintenance hatch now. Marked D-17, she palms it. It opens. Someone on the inside still keeps the chain alive. Below is a shaft never shown on any public map. She descends 30 meters, straight down into a natural lava tube the 79 AD surges never reached. The consortium scanned it in 2041 and dismissed it as geologically uninteresting. At the bottom, the air is cool and smells of candle wax. And women, hundreds of them. The tube has been turned into a shrine. The walls are lined with niches. Floor to ceiling, dot in every niche. One lead casket. One Polaroid or Hala or daguerreotype or memory crystal. One generation's worth of 20 gold aurei. And one new line added to the letter. The oldest niche is still the original, Myrtis's own hand. 79 AD. The newest is dated yesterday. A woman from Lagos who used the coins to buy a drone swarm that extracted her sisters from a forced slaver camp in the Sahara. Amina walks the spiral slowly, fingertips brushing each name. Rhodope. The Christian girl of 312. The Moorish dancer, the Haitian revolutionary. The Jewish girl from Auschwitz, Valentina Rossi, grinning in her Scampia bedroom, holding a positive pregnancy test and a middle finger. All of them at the very center stands a simple stone plinth. On it, a fresh casket, smaller, 3D printed titanium this time. Because gold is too soft for where it has to go next. No wax seal. Just a retinal scanner.amin leans in. The lid iris is open. Inside, 20 gold aurei, still the same ones. Chemically impossible, untouched by time. And a single quantum storage. Bead the size of a peppercorn. She slots the bead into the port behind her ear. The message unfolds straight into her mind. Every voice at once. 2,000 years of women speaking in perfect synchrony. We made it off Earth. We are on the far side of the moon. In Tycho crater, grid 9, 200 meters below the old Chinese rover. The company thinks, they own us up here. They're wrong, bring the chain, bring the fire. We've saved you a bed with stone walls and a door that locks from the inside. And every sister who ever ran. Amina starts laughing so hard the exosuit microphones clip. She closes the casket, seals the shaft behind her, and walks out into the pink pre-dawn light of 27-9. By sunset, she is on a private, suborbital, out of Napoli Capodichino. Forged credentials, no neural implant trace. Destination, Mare Crisium. Luna. 20 gold coins in her pocket that somehow still weigh. Exactly the same as they did the day Myrtis died clutching. Them the shift still hasn't ended. It just left the planet and somewhere under the glass roof of Pompeii. A new casket is already waiting for whoever needs it next, because the chain is unbroken, unburned, unburied, and now officially off Dash World. See you on the moon. Sister. August 24th, 79 AD gives 2079 AD gives 379 AD. Post-Terran calendar, Tycho crater. Far side of the moon depth, 2.4 kilometers below mean surface, they call the place. The Lupaner Tychon is not a joke. It is the oldest continuously inhabited structure built by human hands that was never built by men. The corridor walls are black basalt, left exactly as the lava left them in the Precambrian eons. But every 10 meters there is a niche, same as the lava tube under Pompeii. But now there are 2,300 niches. One for every woman who made it here since Amina Al-Khatif arrived with the titanium. Casket in 27-9. Each niche contains 20 gold aurei, still the same 20 coins. Still chemically impossible. Still warm to the touch, the newest photograph or neural ghost of the woman who just left them. One line added to the chain letter in whatever language or medium. She spoke the chain letter is now 4.6 million lines long and is considered the single most illegal document in the solar system. Every corporate security AI and every planetary governance has a kill order on it. Possession is an instant memory wipe offense. It has never once been deleted. Because the Lupaner is unfindable, the entrance moves every 79 days. 7 hours, 9 minutes, the exact duration of the 79-8 eruption, the corridor rewrites its own geometry. Using stolen construction nanites, the air is breathable, but tastes faintly of garum and the ashes of Vesuvius. The lights are oil lamps. Actual oil. Actual flame. In a vacuum tunnel 2 kilometers under the lunar surface. No one has ever explained the physics. No one tries anymore. The current madam is called Myrtis-379. She is 9 feet tall in her exosuit. Skin the color of midnight. Eyes replaced with the same gold aurei that have been traveling since 79 AD. Melted down and reforged into perfect mirrors. She has the original broken Priapus figurine welded to her chest plate like a medal. When she speaks, 2,300 dead women speak with her in harmonic. Tonight, she is admitting the newest arrival. The girl staggers in. Through the membrane lock, dragging a ruptured environment. Suit bleeding oxygen like Myrtis once bled hope in a doorway in Pompeii. Her suit helmet is painted with the old Licatina symbol, a broken chain reforged into a circle. She is 16. From the series mining belt. Born in 0G, sold at 12, escaped at 15 by blowing an airlock and riding the explosion in a corpse storage pod for 400,000 kilometers. She has never seen rain. Only ice. She has never felt a planet under her feet. She is dying of radiation and wonder and equal. Measure Myrtis 379 kneels, the 9-foot titan. Becomes a mountain folding and presses the broken priapus into the girl's frost-burned hand. The girl's last words. Before the med bay puts her into the sarcophagus that rebuilds people the old way. Slowly, with real bone and real blood, are in the thick accent of the belt. Is this Pompeii? Myrtis 379 answers with every voice that ever was, no. Baby, this is what comes after Pompeii. This is the place. The ash finally cooled. Close your eyes. The shift is over. You're home. The girl sleeps for 6 months. When she wakes, she is no longer dying. She is Myrtis 380. She adds her own line to the chain letter in the new niche. I never got to choose my name, so I took yours. Thank you for the bed with stone walls and the door that locks from the inside. I'm keeping it warm. For the next girl, the 20 gold coins are already gone again. Slipped into the hand of a runner headed for the Kuiper gulags. Because someone out there is still running, the lupaner has grown roots now. There is a garden under UV lamps that grows figs and silphium, the extinct contraceptive plant. Resurrected from 2,000-year-old seeds found in Myrtis's original room. There is a brothel. Only no one pays with money. They pay with stories. They pay with escape routes. They pay with one freed slave at a time, and every August 24th. No matter what calendar the rest of humanity is pretending to use. The lights dim to oil flame gold. The air smells of Falernian and ash. And 2,000 voices sing the old obscene victory hymn that started above a popina in a city that died in a heartbeat. The shift never ends. It just keeps burning outward. A chain of fire across the dark. Until there is no Guerlain, no world woe still has to run. And when that day comes, the last Myrtis will finally blow out the last oil lamp and go to sleep. Until then, the lupaner Tychonus is open for business. Doors unlocked from the inside. Come home when you're tired. Sister, we saved you a bed. Year unknown location. Unknown, only the chain remembers there is no more. Sun, there are no more planets. The last star went cold so long ago that entropy itself is a children's story. Only vacuum. Only dark. Only the faint afterglow of Hawking radiation from the final black holes. And yet, there is still a room. It has no coordinates. It has no walls you can touch. It is kept alive by a single unbroken loop of 20 gold. Aurei orbiting each other at the speed of thought. The same 20 coins that have been moving from hand to hand. Since 79 AD, inside the room there is a stone bed. The same dimensions as the ones in the CS, Pompeii Lupana. 5 feet by 6. Cold, hard, perfect. On the bed sits the last Myrtis. She is everyone and no one. Her body is a lattice of every woman. Whoever carried the chain, Myrtis of Pompeii. Rhodope, Valentina Amina, the girl from Ceres, and billions more. Braided together into a single shape that is, simultaneously 26 years old and older than time. She is naked, she is smiling. She is waiting. Because the chain has one final rule, that was never written down until now, when there is no one left to run. The last runner comes home and becomes the door, so the last Myrtis waits. And one day, there is no time. But one day still happens. A final figure steps out of the absolute. Dark it is a girl. Of course, it is a girl J. She is the very small. She has never had a name that was truly hers. She has never seen light except the kind men sold her. Under she has been running for so long, she forgot what standing still feels like. She is the very last one. She looks at the bed, at the woman made of all women, at the 20 gold coins spinning like lazy fireflies. The last Myrtis opens her arms. No words there. Are no languages left to need them. The girl walks. Forward, she lies down on the stone bed that has waited across galaxies and extinctions. She is shaking. The last Myrtis covers her with a yellow stola that still smells faintly of cheap perfume and garum, and the smoke of a mountain that died. Before the first star did, the girl closes her eyes. For the first time in the history of the universe, a girl who was only ever property falls asleep in a bed she was never charged for. The 20 coins slow, settle, and finally stop spinning. They fall, one by one, into the girl's open hand. She doesn't need to pass them on. There is no next. The chain has reached its final link. The room dims. The last Myrtis leans down and whispers the only thing that was ever really important. The sentence that started above a papina in 79 AD and ended here at the end of ends shifts over. Baby, you're free. The dark folds gently around them like a blanket, and for the first time since the Big Bang, there is perfect silence. No more running, no more buying, no more selling, only sleep, only home, only the soft, endless sound of 2,000 billion women breathing out at once. The shift is, finally, truly, over. There is no next. The coins have stopped moving. The bed is occupied. The door is closed from the inside. Everything that ever needed to be freed us, been freed. Everything that ever needed to be remembered has been remembered. The last Myrtis and the last girl sleep together under the yellow stola. Two silhouettes carved out of the same long exhaustion. Finally, perfectly still. Outside the room, the universe finishes dying with good manners. No bang, no whimper. Just the quiet click of a lock sliding home. And in that hush, if you could still had ears to hear with, you would catch the faintest sound. 20 gold coins, settled warm in a sleeping girl's palm, tinkling once like tiny bells on an anklet. As she turns over in her dream sand smiles. That is the whole story. That was always the whole story. Good night, sister. The shift is over forever.